Hey everyone, here's one change I'd make to every Dead by Daylight killer to make them more fun. Trapper would be instantly more fun if he just started with all of his traps. This would not only be a good balance change, but it would also increase his fun factor, stopping him from spending a large portion of the game walking over to pick up a trap, which is probably his most boring aspect. Wraith is a character that could be more fun if he was actually stealthy and didn't have his incredibly loud breathing. His bell is already there to reveal when he's about to uncloak, but often you hear him way before because of his movements and breathing sounds. Billy I have an idea for, and it's that if he downs the survivor with his chainsaw, it instantly charges overdrive, allowing him to possibly go for multiple downs in a row at a greater speed. Now, I know this may sound like a slugger's dream, but I'm thinking more in line with retaining momentum over anything. Nurse would honestly be more enjoyable if she was weaker, I think. This also works as a balance change of course too, but even for the purpose of fun, I think she benefits from a nerf. I've always liked the idea of making her add-on Spasmodic Breath a base kit. This means she still has her busted power, but she also has to balance it with regular killer movement and gameplay. I think that's a pretty fun dynamic. Myers, I've always liked the idea that if Myers stalks you enough that he runs completely out of stalk, then he either puts you into permanent exposed or is able to mori you. This would reward a Myers for managing to completely drain a survivor's meter. Currently all that does is just stop your ability to hit tier 3 again if it happens to all the survivors. You lose your power for using it too much, which is crazy. It should be rewarded if anything, so this addition makes sense I think. Hag is a tough character honestly, but I think she could benefit from an uncapped teleport range. Now I know how that sounds, but I really think that would make her not only more enjoyable, but actually provide quite a meaningful buff that also would encourage her not to camp or hold down an area by proxy. Doctor is a character I really think deserves a bigger terror radius, not too dissimilarly from both the recent Billy and Blight terror radius buffs. I think Doctor should also get 40 meters. This would make his AoE shock much more effective too, and I think he'd just generally be more fun this way. He's the kind of character who needs that big presence, I think. Huntress, I want to suggest adding a sort of skill shot. If you manage to down a survivor from beyond 48 meters, they go down instantly. I think this could be very fun and encourage some riskier shots and plays from a range. Bubba should get a secondary tantrum mechanic where if he uses his chainsaw say 5 times, he slowly charges it up, and the next time he sweeps his chainsaw faster, and for a longer period, having a similar effect possibly to Billy's overdrive, except it's more of a tantrum or wailing noise he's making, like he's becoming very angry or frustrated, which extends the usage of the chainsaw. I think it'd be nice for these more outdated killers to have sort of that power-up phase or some kind of extra ability, but one that doesn't completely change the character and how they play. Freddy could be a lot more fun if he had some voice lines. Even if it is the lesser favoured Freddy we have in the game, I still think it'd be really cool and make the character much more fun and interesting. Pig I think could benefit from deactivated and activated reverse bear traps being required to be removed before leaving the trial. This would mean she still benefits from their use even if she had a rough early game. It also makes the game a little more tense for the survivors, having to remove the traps at the end. Clown I sort of wish his yellow bottles didn't have that small activation delay when thrown. I sort of wish they just instantly activated like the pink. I'm sure the reason is so you can preempt your position whilst pushing into it, but this feels a little awkward sometimes. It can be sort of irritating when you throw a bottle but you didn't quite throw it far enough, so now you have to slightly back up to get into the yellow cloud. Spirit would be more fun simply if she were more accessible. I personally have a constant ringing in one of my ears, and so playing Spirit is often quite difficult and unenjoyable. It'd be nice if they added some sort of visual sound tracking option, or even just some built-in heightened sounds like a permanent strider sort of thing. Legion would be so much more fun if they had a shorter cooldown after cancelling their power. It would make them able to use it far more effectively on loops and simply with more versatility. I think more people would opt to play Chase Legion rather than focusing on anti-heal so much. Plague I really like the idea of making it so when you infect an object, it nerfs it slightly somehow for the survivor side. For example, if you infect a pallet, the pallet stuns you for 10% less say. If you infect a gen, the gen repairs 3% slower or something. If you infect the exit gates, they open 5% slower. Infect a window and it takes 5% longer to vault. Small things like that, but things that encourage and reward you for infecting objects, and not just using your power directly on survivors. Object infection is so rarely used, I feel. Ghostface I actually think could have driver's license as base kit. Currently a huge issue for stealth killers, and Ghostface in particular, is that they lose so much time stalking or prepping and being stealthy that they lose a ton of pressure. This add-on causes gens to explode and regress 20% of the gen's total progress when you mark someone on a gen. It also blocks the gen. I don't think this add-on needs to be completely base kit, but maybe a standard 10% regression and no gen block could be nice. This would also encourage using his power as a pressure tool as much as it is a sort of direct damage tool. You could choose to mark someone for regression and then go and chase another. Demogorgon I have a bit of a boring suggestion, but it's just to rework the add-ons. They're all pretty boring. The one add-on that was really cool, the lifeguard whistle, had to be reworked because of a really broken strategy, but I hope they add some cooler, more varied add-ons in the future. Oni would be a lot more fun with a wider range of add-ons. He currently has quite dull add-ons despite there being a lot to be done with his power. It'd be nice if they were shaken up a bit. Deathslinger I would honestly love to see Iridescent Coin become base kit. I think nailing a long range shot and managing to reel them all the way in for damage should absolutely be rewarded and encouraged, and so an insta-down would be amazing. Pyramid Head, more so than just about anyone on this list, needs an add-on rework. He has so many add-ons that are so incredibly boring, yet his power is one of the more expansive and multifaceted. He would be infinitely more fun with more unique and varied add-ons. Blight would be more fun if he did get a little nerf, I think. One I really like the sound of, and one that Kaneki recently got, is that he loses a token after breaking a pallet. This would be really fair, I think, and nerf him down a little. He'd be a bit more fun this way, I think, for both sides. Personally, I think he can be a bit too steamrolly at the moment. Twins, give Victor a little hat. That's all we need for twins, really. It'll make them so much more fun. Trickster could really benefit, I think, if his blades naturally ricocheted, not too dissimilarly from his current add-on that makes his blades ricochet or bounce off of surfaces. One of his big flaws is that he can get hard countered on some maps with lots of high walls, or, well, indoor maps too. It would help, I think, if he could bounce blades too, as it allows him to hit around corners, but also counter some of these tiles. But it'd also, of course, still take a lot of skill to actually pull this off. Nemesis, I think, could be a little more fun if you had a bit more control over the zombies. Whilst I do think it's good they aren't perfect and are a bit chaotic, it would be nice if you could direct them towards certain areas or parts of the map. Being able to tell each zombie to go toward a certain area of the map would be nice, for example, even if it isn't very accurate. Maybe you could send a zombie to 1/4 of the map and it would stay in that area no matter what until you told it to move. Something like that would help them at least be useful instead of randomly wandering around in a corner or getting stuck on something. I suggest an area-based system, as I think being able to command them to search around generators, for example, would be way too strong. Pinhead I think would be naturally more fun if his chain shot just had a much longer range. I love playing Javelin Pinhead sometimes, where you put on his range add-ons, then you dart the chain up into the air like a javelin, before firing it down onto a survivor. It makes it easier up in the air to get a clear view, and they never expected. It's quite fun. I just wish it was naturally longer. It doesn't need to be infinite range, of course, but I honestly think it could be doubled, and it would be fine. It would also double up as an information tool, which I think is quite a cool idea, using the chain as a scout, sort of. Artists would be way more fun if they got rid of the ability to remove crows by jumping in a locker. I hate this mechanic so much. It kind of destroys her ability to play at range sometimes. Even though that's easily the most fun or satisfying way to play her, I hope they change this. Sadako I wish had a bit more freedom in her kit and possibilities of approach. Sometimes she just feels way too restrictive. It sort of feels like you have to go for a hard condemned playstyle where your goal is to mori everyone. Her power feels a bit pigeonholed in that way. I know this is super broad, but I always find when playing her, I'm wanting something more, or simply varied in terms of gameplay. Dredge, just please place the lockers more evenly throughout the map. That'd do it for me. I'd like Dredge a lot actually if this were the case. The current locker placements just really throw me off though. Wesker I think would be more fun if he could slide a bit more off of objects. Currently it feels like there's a lot of tiles that are way too sharp, and even the ones with curves he just sort of smacks against. I think it'd be fine if he naturally just slid on some surfaces a bit more, compared to someone like Blight, who I'd debate should bounce and not glide around certain surfaces. Night, I'd like if there were more distinct roles between the three guards. They do sort of have this with Carnifex breaking pallets very quickly, Jailer having far longer chase times, and Assassin applying deep wound. However, for Assassin in particular, I feel he doesn't provide a unique enough effect compared to the other two. Maybe as an Assassin he could have a quieter roaming sound, for example, or even a silent one to make up for his much shorter chase duration too. Maybe the green circle doesn't appear on the ground for him, so you can get caught off guard with a sudden guard hit. Skull Merchant would greatly benefit fun-wise if she was given a clear purpose or direction. I think this has always been my issue with her personally. She's so scrambled in presentation and power that I wish there was just a more definitive direction laid out for her. What is she meant to be doing? It does seem like the design previews are addressing this though, which is great. Singularity, and now this may be a little OP. I do wish you'd be able to play him a bit more stealthily, for example, when they lock onto someone or when you operate them, if they were just a bit quieter so people wouldn't notice. I think that'd be really cool. Xenomorph is a character I do wish would be a lot stealthier too than it currently is. I'd really like if they made it so turrets no longer reveal Xeno's position and instead just stay silent, only activating when it gets near to them and burns it. I also think Xeno having a heavily decreased terror radius in crawler mode would be cool too, maybe 8 meters. Chucky, I sort of want to say the same as Xeno. I'd like if Chucky was much stealthier when his power was up. He's already a 4.4, and I think if he simply had a terror radius of 8 meters or none at all, he'd be a lot better, simply by his ability to get closer before being detected. He's already yapping his head off, so I feel this wouldn't make too much of a difference power-wise. Unknown, I think, could benefit from making UVX affected survivors hallucinate a bit more. Currently you do get a few muttering noises and sounds when nearby to Unknown's body doubles, however I think it'd be cool if it had some sort of Doctor's Madness effect, where you see Unknown's hallucinations that aren't there, and you have to actually go check to make sure. This would also act as a bit of a counter to your dupes being so easily broken by survivors. Vecna, I'd like to see the Dispelling Sphere get a bit of a buff. I feel this is the one spell that gets really underutilized and is sort of the least flashy of the 4 abilities. Maybe if the sphere could have different modes, maybe it can be placed in one spot or you can choose to fire it across the map like you currently do. This could allow a sort of a monitoring of an area, but also detecting an area further away if you prefer. A little more versatility maybe. Dracula I'd personally find a lot more enjoyable with a smoother switching system, something closer to Vecna's spell wheel, but something that is of course distinct and different too, because that's Vecna's thing. I personally don't like how you currently switch between the various forms, and I find it quite confusing. Maybe that's just me though. Houndmaster I think I'd find a bit more fun if she was simply less buggy. I do appreciate how much she's been improved, but she still suffers from weird bugs every so often, and seems to be a constant draw for them. This can kill the fun a bit sometimes. I'd also like, a bit like the Twins one, if Snug could get some customizations, aside like the special visceral skins. Maybe various collars or, you know, things like that. Kaneki has been reworked a bit already, and I think it's made him a lot more fun and fair. I do think he'd be more fun if he naturally had a longer range for his movement though, but I know that would make him way too OP as well. I sort of feel like he's perfect otherwise at the moment, so this wild buff is all I've got. My suggestion for Springtrap is actually really tough, because I feel like they've nailed pretty much everything in regards to him. Even things like add-ons I would say are nearly perfect. I would personally like if there was sort of a guide for the axe throw or axe sort of arc there is. For me personally, I'd really like if there was sort of some indication of it, but I know that's probably just a case-by-case basis for a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people would hate that too, but I would like to see vaguely sort of where it's going as I'm aiming it. So there we have it. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts too down below, and what you would do to make every killer more fun. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.